aborting more than 1 of every 4 pregnancies, creating human clones, eliminating our elderly with euthanasia. Is this how we should deal with human life? Find out how you can make a difference in changing our culture in this edition of Life Matters. Brian Johnston is the Western Director of the National Right to Life Committee. He has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives, as California Commissioner on Aging, as Chairman of the California Pro-Life Council, on the board of the National Legal Center for the Medically Dependent and Disabled. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We're your program on the right to life, on the culture that emanates from that important and singular idea, and your program on the battle of ideas surrounding the right to life. What is the right to life? The right to life is an assertion that you've been given life as a gift, not from the government, but from your Creator. But the government has a duty to protect your right to be alive, to ensure it. That's why governments are instituted among men, is what our founder said. So the right to be alive is a primordial issue. You can't have other rights. You can't have the right to be secure in your person, paper, or property, your right to free speech or keep and bear arms. Those other rights are secondary to you being alive. It's very important to realize now that there's a battle of ideas about what the right to life is. And unless you're aware of that battle of ideas, you're going to get caught up. You, in fact, are going to lose that battle. I want to focus today on a very important singular issue, and that is the issue of abortion and how late they happen, what we call late-term abortions. You know, in this battle of ideas, abortion advocates want to minimize abortion. They tend to present it, and you already know this if you're following the debate, they tend to present it as only something that happens early on in pregnancy. And ask some of your friends and neighbors, even folks you go to church with, what did Roe versus Wade do? And the media has intentionally misled abortion law in our nation, misled how it really functions, and it's implied it only applies to the first trimester. It's only early on. And this is a continual attack. These ideas that, oh no, it's very minimal, it's only early. And if there are later abortions, oh, it's for some really good, hard reason. That's a lie. That is a falsehood. And these false ideas are being used to dissuade people from caring about the right to life issue. We're going to spend time today just talking about late-term abortion. We're going to talk about its importance because that's when people do start to care. Polls consistently show that even people who call themselves pro-choice will in fact move away from their support of abortion the later the abortion is discussed. And in particular, late-term abortions that are done without any medical reason in the case of the mother or of the baby. Most Americans do not favor later abortions that are done for no particular reason. And that's what choice means. Choice abortion means abortion at any time, for any reason, or no reason in particular, just because it's chosen. That's what choice really means. And most Americans, when they understand that, they don't agree. They don't really consider themselves pro-choice when it's defined the way that radical abortionists really mean it. And so they think that abortion is only early on. We have to focus on this if we're going to win, and we have to let people know what the real facts of human life are and what the real facts of the law are. So in this program, we're going to talk about a new project of the California Pro-Life Council. It's a project that I consider very, very important. It's the Light of Day project, and we're going to give you a chance to be involved through the Light of Day project as an ambassador to others in California regarding the life of the child in the womb. We're going to have some interviews with a young woman who is pregnant right now. She's at 26 weeks with her 4th baby. You're going to hear from Joanna Hyatt. With her first child when she was 26 weeks, she went to late-term abortionists, and she was genuinely pregnant. She actually asked for an abortion and was quite upfront that there was nothing wrong with her physically, nor was there anything wrong with the child. She just wanted that abortion because she wanted it. She just felt she wanted it. At the several different abortion clinics she went to 6 different abortion clinics, they said nothing. They did not try to dissuade her. Her reasoning was perfectly acceptable. You're going to hear that interview from Johanna. But when we talk about abortion in California, you need to realize that all abortion regulations in California have been removed. Some people think that it's regulated. As I said, most people think it's only happening in the first trimester, or maybe just up to 6 weeks. There's confusion, and they think this is a carefully regulated industry. There's no regulations in California on abortion. That's right. Under Governor Jerry Brown, SB 980 removed all regulations on abortion. Veterinary clinics have more rules, regulations, and guidance than abortion clinics do. It's because the abortion industry and the radicalized Democrat Party has complete control of California. And yet your neighbors don't know that, the degree to which abortion is done and how late abortions can be done. You need to know this, that in 1996, when we had a pro-life legislature, that the Born Alive Infant Protection Act was passed. In 1996, it was asserted and put into statute that if a child is born alive during the course of an abortion, that child needs to be cared for. That's the law in California, but it's unexercised because there's no regulations. There's no one enforcing that law. It's an admission in our laws that this is a valuable human being, and yet because of the current status of affairs, those children are not being protected. There's no regulation of abortion clinics in California, and you need to know that. You need to get the word out. So one of the things we'll ask you to do is go to the California Pro-Life Council page, californiaprolife.org, and go to the Light of Day Project. Click on that and read what we talk about there and how you can be involved in equipping others to understand how serious this is. The media has an intentional desire to misrepresent, to minimize what happens in an abortion. If the humanity of the child is recognized, the average person, the average American, and the average Californian in the Los Angeles Times polls show this. Los Angeles Times has polled consistently, and it shows that support of abortion in California drops the later the abortion takes place. And if there's no medically indicated reason for those abortions, Californians don't support abortion on demand. You're not told that by the pop press. We're going to tell you how you can delve into this and help others understand it more when we come back on Life Matters.
Life Matters continues after this.
They say sunlight is the best disinfectant. Did you know that California has a law in the books that says you need to protect babies born alive in the course of an abortion? But that law is simply ignored. The current legislature and Governor Newsom's administration support all abortions all the time, and they simply do not examine or regulate the practice even though our tax dollars pay for it. We need to shine a light on this cover-up of the abortion industry in our state. Go to californiaprolife.org and click on the Light of Day Project. We need the facts about late-term abortion to be examined and made known. We need the government doing its job to protect lives. We need the light of day on this. Go to californiaprolife.org.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Well, welcome back. As I told you, we're going to have an interview in just a moment with our good friend Joanna Hyatt, who went undercover regarding late-term abortion. And it's rather chilling, but you need to know that this is happening. When you click on the Light of Day Project on the California Pro-Life Council page, do scroll down and hear the message of Melissa Oden, who is a friend of ours. She's a friend of California Pro-Life and National Right to Life. She's a personal friend of mine and my wife, a wonderful woman. She was actually born in the course of an abortion. And sadly, the nurses were told just to leave her alone. And she was gurgling in a bucket of blood. Fortunately, there was a nurse that defied the doctor and took that baby to the neonatal ward. And she was subsequently adopted out. And it was only in her teens that Melissa Oden found out that she was actually aborted. It wasn't that they planned to abort her, they did abort her. But she accidentally survived. Late-term abortions are happening, my friend. And the more that the average American knows this, the more they want to stop it. you have an obligation to help equip people to understand what abortion really is and how late abortions can happen. So go to the Light of Day Project at California Pro-Life. There you can volunteer to be an ambassador for life, an ambassador for the California Pro-Life Council to help folks understand what the laws really are. Okay, well, I told you that you're going to hear right now from a really amazing young woman. She has 4 children. The 4th is on its way. She's pregnant with the 4th. But when she was pregnant with her first child, she actually went to abortionists and said that, well, you're going to hear. There's nothing wrong with her physically. Her health wasn't in danger. Her life wasn't in danger. And there was nothing wrong medically with the child. And yet those abortionists were glad to perform the abortion if she had remained. And there were many, she said, in those abortion clinics with children as far along as her. And those babies are dead. So now, without further ado, let's hear from Joanna Hyatt.
So this is my new old friend, Joanna Hyatt. And Joanna is a wonderful, beautiful, and brave young woman who works with live action. And I want her to tell you her story and what she found out about late-term abortion when she was actually pregnant. And in fact, you're pregnant again, right, Joanna?
I am pregnant again, expecting our 4th child and 4th daughter.
So awesome. So wonderful. Well, you took up this cause to reveal just how easy and common late-term abortion is. So tell us about your experiences.
Yeah, when I was about 26 weeks pregnant with our first daughter, I went undercover with live action and posed as a woman seeking an abortion at that point in my pregnancy. And 26 weeks along, we know, is fairly far along in the pregnancy. It's over halfway. You definitely feel a child moving. Usually by then, if you're doing a gender reveal, you know what the gender is. You've had that detailed ultrasound to know is everything okay or not okay with the baby and everything like that. And so at 26 weeks, I visited most of the notorious late-term abortionists in this country. There are currently about 4 or 5 who will perform abortions far into and sometimes up until birth, far into the 3rd trimester and up until birth. And so I went as a woman posing, wanting to end my pregnancy, wanting the abortion, not because there was a fetal abnormality, not because of my health, but simply because I just didn't want this pregnancy anymore. I didn't want the baby, and I couldn't do it. And at every single place, no one batted an eye at that. No one seemed, of course, they were appalled, but neither were they telling me like, oh, well, we rarely see women who want abortions for no reason other than they just don't want this pregnancy. And so what it reinforced for me was what we all suspect to be true, and very much is true, that there are a lot of late-term abortion happening, not because the child is in danger, the mother's in danger, anything like that. It's simply because everything's fine and healthy. The mother just doesn't want to continue that pregnancy anymore. And that's not a rare occurrence. That is actually the main motivating factor, I think, actually for a lot of these later term abortions. And
yes.
And it was, it's expensive. It's not cheap. And the procedure's pretty involved, multiple days, and they were more than happy to help and to do that, at all of these places that I went to.
Wow. I've heard you retell this, and I think, and you've pointed this out, that these other women, obviously you were there, but you weren't going to go through with it. But
right.
I found very, very compelling you're relating the story of the other women that were there.
Yep, I remember one place I was sitting in specifically, and I looked across the room, and there was a gal, she couldn't have been more than 17 or 18 years old, sitting there with her mother. And, if you've ever known somebody who's pregnant, or listening, you're a woman, you've been pregnant, 26 weeks you are showing there is a considerable bump, and this gal was as far along, if not further, than I was. And there were a couple of others in the room, and I remember looking at them thinking, my child will come out of here alive today, but that child will not. And that child, I am a witness to their last moments on earth. And that scene in variations was repeated in these waiting rooms across the country that I visited, which was so heartbreaking to me to beyond the headlines, this is the very real pain that is happening every day in clinics in this country where women are going in and they look very pregnant and they felt that baby kick and they will leave no longer being pregnant, and that they will feel those last jerks from the baby as it dies, because in a late-term abortion, they inject a shot into the baby to induce a heart attack. And then 2 or 3 days later, she will deliver a stillborn child. And just heartbreaking to think my child now, she's 6 years old. And we've been blessed with 2 other girls. And like I said at the beginning, a 4th on the way. But 6 years ago, I sat in a waiting room with children that have never seen the light of day.
Mm-hmm. You know, a couple of things come to mind. First, I think listeners need to understand what's meant by choice. And again, everyone in America knows that choice has merely become a synonym for abortion. But it has a very specific meaning in the feminist dialogue, in the feminist mentality. And what it means is choice, abortion on demand for any reason or no reason in particular. There need not be a reason. And this is why when we have measures that are put forward in various states, well, these should be done only under certain circumstances. Again, most Americans, actually even in California, polling shows that most Californians, one of the most liberal states in the nation, they'll support abortion, but that abortion drops, as abortion support drops later in pregnancy. And it's always that it's somehow conditioned. Well, there must be some reason for it. But abortion on demand throughout 9 months of pregnancy for any reason or no reason in particular is the meaning of choice. And that's written up. That is part of their code. That is part of what is being sold to Americans. And yet many Americans naively think, oh, it's just for the first trimester. Roe v. Wade is for limited circumstances. And as we talked about earlier, specifically Doe v. Bolton gives the attending physician all authority and all decision-making power in ending that child's life. And it doesn't have anything to do with the woman's physical health. In fact, Justice Blackmun spelled it out clearly. It can be the attending physician, that means abortionist, their opinion of the emotional or even psychological or sociological health of that woman. So what will it be like for her in the future? And obviously, if you're an abortionist, you conjecture it'll be bad. And therefore, this is justified to kill this child. And that's a healthy child. And it's a healthy mother. So Johanna has experienced this. She's telling you what happened to her. The other thing, Johanna, that you relay, and I think it's very important, when a woman is pregnant, it's a very vulnerable time. And this is the reason we honor mothers. This is an emotional, trying time. Her body is changing dramatically.
Yeah, I mean, on the horizon, I'm actually encouraged. I think we are at a point where people are having to decide. People are having to make a stand either way. When you have states like New York and Illinois and Vermont taking very extreme positions by choosing to allow abortion through all 9 months. And then you have other states like Alabama and Louisiana and Georgia who are standing up and saying, no, not on our watch and not in our state. And then they're going a step further. I mean, I love that Alabama led the nation in adoptions from foster care, you know, even as they limited abortion to basically the first 6 weeks in a heartbeat. And I think that's what it's going to look like for the movement, is that we are not just against abortion. We are actually for so many other things. We are for family. We are for women. We are for men standing up and being what men were called to be, protectors, providers, to take their rightful place, even as women take their rightful place. And we are for communities coming around individuals. I think, as you said, you know, women can be vulnerable. I mean, I feel more emotional in my pregnancies, but more than that, I'm so grateful that I have a community of people around me, that I have family, that I have friends. And I think so many women who choose abortion are missing that. And so we have to have compassion. We have to have grace when we step into these conversations to say, we know that you are in a hard situation, but we want to love you, and we want to love you through it, in it, and out of it. And as I see the future of the movement being one that really comes around and doesn't just focus on the child, but really embraces the woman, empowers the man, and begins to show all the things that we are for, even as we continue to fight for an end to these horrific abuses. I mean, late-term abortion is a no-brainer for why everybody should be against it. And then from there, I think it's a starting point for working backwards. Well, if we'll protect the child at this point, why not at this point, and this point, and this point? So I'm encouraged. I hope your listeners are encouraged, and I hope they're inspired to get engaged on some level, locally, nationally, in this conversation, in this fight, because it is a fight. It's not just a fight for the child. It's a fight for our nation's soul, and whether we will be known for standing up for the defenseless among us, for those without a voice, for the marginalized, for the victim, in what I would say is the greatest and most extreme case, the child who dies And the woman who, as you said, is so often without options and being pushed into something, whether she realizes it or not.
Right. Exactly right. Johanna, thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you, Brian. Pleasure to be here, always.
Life Matters continues after this.
Life Matters is sponsored by the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of the National Right to Life Committee. To find out more on how you can help and be involved right where you are, go to californiaprolife.org. That's californiaprolife.org. We'll tell you how you can get involved in your local community, how you can be effective if you want to be a pro-life speaker. We have training programs and open doors of opportunity for you to speak on the life issue. If you'd like to donate your car or a boat, you can do that at californiaprolife.org. Car Easy makes it easy, and you find that on our website. We get the most of any donation program. Car Easy allows us to get the most out of your car. Maybe you're not getting the trade-in value you wanted. Maybe it's just not running the way it used to. Let your car be used for life. Go to californiaprolife.org and find out what you can do to make a difference. californiaprolife.org.
Be sure to subscribe to the Life Matters podcast with Brian Johnston. Go to lifematters.life to subscribe. And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. You just heard a very powerful story from Joanna Hyatt. Greatly appreciate her. You know, I told you that the media is working against these facts. They don't want these facts known. You should recognize that. We dedicate this program to helping you understand this battle of ideas, this battle of words, to minimize abortion, to minimize the child in the womb so that they're merely a blob of tissue. They're just little tiny nothings. I was in a radio interview with a reporter, and the reporter was asking about some legislation and said, well, of course, you're coming across the issue of when does life begin? And I said, well, actually, no, we're not. That's not an issue at all, really. For the moment, I'll pretend along with you that we don't know when life begins. And if we do pretend that for a moment, isn't that true of your life? Because you're a human being, right? And you're saying we don't know when your life began? Does that mean that other people are now free to kill you because you say you don't know when life began? And if we don't know when life began, you're free to kill a living person. But of course, that's not true at all. And there are no abortions at the moment that life begins. And you and I already know this, and so did Justice Blackmun when he wrote that phrase, that we don't know when life begins. No, we've known since the observation of mammalian conception in 1836 with the modern microscope. We've known when life begins. And in fact, the laws of our nation have reflected that. No, abortions take place well after that. So the fact is that you don't want to talk about abortion by bringing up when does life begin. And as I say, it does apply to you. And if we don't know when your life began and therefore you have no human rights, that's an absurd premise. And I'm just a little tired of people skating around the issue by bringing up tangents like when does life begin. We know that this is a human life because otherwise it's not an abortion. In order for there to be an abortion, one must kill a living entity. If it's an equine abortion, you're killing a little pony. If it's a canine abortion, you're killing a little puppy. And if it's a human abortion, you are killing a human being. So when that life began isn't really the issue. The reality is for abortion, we know it's alive. And you and I know that. That's an objective fact. But the reason I bring that up is because the media consistently, and abortion advocates consistently, want to minimize when abortions are done. They want to talk about zygotes. They want to talk about the moment of conception, as if there's abortion happening all the time there, when in fact it's exactly the opposite. And it's the humanity of the child that they don't want to recognize, and they will go out of their way to not do that. So again, if you can, go, please, to the California Pro-Life website. Go to the Light of Day Project. Help Californians understand how late abortions happen, because when they do understand, they're on our side already. The polls already show that when people understand how late abortions are happening, they don't want that to continue. So help them understand. There are people in your church right now that sit next to you in the pews that believe that Roe versus Wade only legalizes abortion in the first trimester. They've been lied to. When they know what you have heard about now, when they know this, when they see the video of children that have been aborted, when they see Melissa Oden's video, which you'll see at the Light of Day Project, when you tell them about Johannas Story, The reality is that there need be nothing wrong with that mother. There need be nothing wrong with that child. And the child can be big enough to hold in your arms, but that child can be aborted in the name of choice. You and I have an obligation, now that we know this, to make it known. Make known the truth. For this reason came we into the world, to bear witness to the truth. We know that someone else said that, but the fact is that God designed us to reflect the truth of His reality. And our founding fathers said that's what we do, that we are actually endowed by our Creator. So even if you know someone who's secular and they say, oh, no, I'm secular. So, well, our founders weren't actually secular. They were non-sectarian. Our founders said there is a Creator. And that's why we can have rights. And if you don't believe there's a Creator, well, then the government is the most powerful thing in the world, and you'll have to do whatever the government tells you. Is that what you believe? And if they think about it, they realize that's a dangerous premise. If they want to deny God and they call themselves an American, I always ask them to take some money out of their pocket, because America recognizes that we have a Creator. It's in our founding documents. It's where our rights have emanated from America. It's what made America a land of freedom throughout the world, and wherever there's freedom in the world and prosperity, it's been an emulation of these principles. But those rights begin in the womb, and it was Roe v. Wade that stripped away those rights. We know that Roe will be overturned soon, but now we have an obligation to prepare others to understand why it needs to be taken away. Why it's not protecting lives, it's protecting, quote, choice. And that's a deceitful term. That these young babies being killed are valuable human beings, unique in the history of humanity. Science says that. Every cell in their body says that they're unique. That the mother's and the father's genetic makeup united in every cell. There's 46 chromosomes that were shared initially from the mother and father and came out a unique pattern. That's what makes you unique. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. But if you're not willing to stand up for other vulnerable human beings, then you're not standing up for the right to life. We have to make known these facts. So go to the Light of Day Project at californiaprolife.org. Click on the Light of Day Project. Join in with us. Help us make this known. Help us raise funds to make it known. We have a state of 40 million people. Many of them don't fully understand this debate. Educating people on the facts of life and educating on the facts of the law is what will compel them to want to do something about it. Get involved. Please help us raise funds for the Light of Day Project. You'll see how easy it is and how people will be appreciative of the facts that you relay to them. Why? Because life matters.
Learn more about everything in today's show online at lifematters.life, where you'll find all the resources you need to protect life. Life Matters is a production of the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life.